Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight we have Carole King, and this is coming from the early 80s, and she's going to be playing through Looking Out for number 1. And we've got a guitar solo at the end of the track by none other than Eric Johnson. So let's get Carole up on screen and see how she gets on.
Silver screen, you look around yourself, you will find you're just the same as anybody else, and that's alright. What kind of fool are you gonna be? There's a locked up soul and you hold the key, but you're too busy looking out for number one. Are you willing to give just a little bit for your own sake? That's really looking out for number one.
And I'm just going to jump in here because we've had about half of the track so far, and there is so much going on in this track. I mean, for starters, I think it's a 9-piece that we've got here. So we've got 9 top players all adding in little parts and hooks all the time. This is an absolute hook fest with this track, but this performance as well, just in general. Of course, a lot of people will be used to Carole sitting behind a piano and singing. Of course, she can play piano as well. Here she's just taking that lead vocal. And on the album that this track comes from, called 1 to 1, there are actually 34 separate musicians who are credited on that album. So it really gives you an idea of Carole's writing and arranging ability in order to have so many different parts going on and have so many different musicians play on your album in order to give your songs the sound that you want. I think a lot of those, or the majority of those, were orchestra members. So you might have 3 or 4 or 5 violins going, viola, you know what an orchestra's like. You can have lots of instruments playing the same lines and other lines that will interlink with each other to give a really nice full sound, especially on a record. But this performance here, when you listen out to it straight away, off the bat, we've got that absolutely rocking bass line. It's such a great groove, such a funky groove that we've got in the foundation of the track, which I always mention is the most important thing. You've got to have a tight bassist and drummer. They've got to be on the same page. And we've got Charles Larkey on bass and Steve Medder on drums here, so it makes all the difference to have that solid foundation. But then straight away we've got little hooks coming in on the piano, and nobody's overplaying here. But if you listen through the track, you can hear tiny little bits that just pop up, just little hooks that when there isn't a main vocal there, and even when there is a vocal there, we've got tiny little hook lines going on in the background. And generally you'll have a lot of vocal hooks where the vocalist is going to use a melody that sticks in your head, especially in the choruses, which you'll be able to repeat. And you'll find that on the big mainstream hits, if there is a solo section, and this doesn't matter what instrument you're talking about, the melody will be slow and memorable rather than just really fast and technical, because a slow, memorable melody is going to connect with more people people than something where they can't actually repeat it back. So that's half the thing about writing great hooks, great melodies. And we're 2 minutes and 6 seconds in here, and it's been breathless so far in terms of just that constant barrage of hooks and melody and just memorable lines and really funky lines that are being thrown in there. Of course, Eric in the background is going to be throwing in some really cool chops, guitar chops, just little things that just jump in and out and you can listen out for them. And what I love as well is the vibrato on those chops, on those little chords that just pop in and out. He's not just playing straight chords, he's just applying vibrato so it sits in there so well. And of course, Carole King on that vocal, absolutely solid. And on that point of that vocal being so spot on, it's interesting because her mum, who used to play a little bit of piano, she's called Eugenia, and Eugenia found out that Carole at age 4, so she's only 4 years old, had absolute pitch, which means that she could name any note just by hearing it, with no reference point. So her mum could just sit at the piano, hit a key, and at age 4, Carole could pick out exactly what that note was, and still can, because Carole's still around. And it's one of those abilities that is very difficult to explain, having not learnt the music, but just heard it, and the brain being able to decipher that information. And I just want to mention about the overall mix, because it is insanely good. I'm listening to it through reference speakers, as I do with all of the videos, so I get a real appreciation of how it sounds. And I'm sure even just playing this on your phone, it's going to sound great because that bass is so upfront and so cool, and it's just breathing. The whole track is breathing. Even though there's 9 members playing in the band, somehow there is still that space in there, that headroom that I mentioned in other great mixes, where you've got so many instruments going on, but it's so well mixed. They each have their place. And here on the microphone as well, we're pretty dry. We haven't got loads of reverb, loads of delay, but let's get back into it.
Really looking out for number one. Yeah, 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 out for number one. Really looking out for number one. Yeah.
And there we have it. And I love the way at the end Carole then just puts all the attention on Eric for that solo, because such a great melodic solo. And as you can see, just everyone's applauding because he's just that kind of player where whenever he plays, it's always just a great lead solo and so well suited to the track. And that's the great thing about the top players, top lead guitarists, is they always play something that's going to suit the track. They're never going to go off mindlessly shredding. Imagine if Eric just went off on one here and started, sweep picking and alternate picking and just going crazy over it. It just wouldn't suit the groove of the track. But he absolutely throws in such a great melodic solo with sections that you can repeat in your head, and that's what it's all about. And again, musically, another interesting thing that happens, another hook that's thrown in there, when we've now got these three vocals and they're all singing into the same microphone, we've got throughout the track the vocal melody isn't strict, it's more free flowing, more funky, it's got that groove in there to the vocal. But as soon as we get into that section where we've now got other voices, we now become strict. We've got that comparison and that contrast. Now we're on beat. And just as an example, when they're singing, going, F for number one. It's that na 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 na, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just absolutely on that beat all the time. The vocal is strict over a backing that isn't strict, and it gives such a great effect. And you'll hear this in a lot of tracks, the vocal going straight and the backing being slightly off, not out of time, but off beat, and just with a slightly different groove. But it gives such a great effect. And just quickly talking about Eric's solo at the end there, viewers of my channel will know that I always gravitate towards that guitar, especially guitar solos, but Eric would have been about 27 in this video. It's such an important part of playing lead guitar that a lot of guitarists don't respect or don't understand, that when somebody's asking you to play on their track, they're asking you to play something that's going to fit their track. They're not asking for you to try and show off or do as much as you can in that 10 or 15 seconds. And just to prove that, I know that Eric has actually played on 5 of the tracks from this album, on the 1-to-1 album. So you do not get asked to play on more than one track unless you are great with melody and have a great appreciation of changing your style and your expression through the guitar to suit that composition of the artist who's asking you to play. It's such a great solo to listen to because of the marriage of technique and melody. It's always those two together that you need. I'm not going to be able to cover Carole's whole career, unfortunately, in this video, but just a few final thoughts: that she's won 4 Grammys and she's written over 100 songs that have made it into the top 100 in the US charts. For that, of course, she's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, but also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for songwriting. And I'll have to do another video in the future where she's sitting behind the piano and singing. I think a lot of people will know her from that. This was just one of those videos that was such a great performance all round, and Carole's just absolutely taking on the lead vocal and absolutely nailing it, but also we've got that bonus of Eric Johnson. So thank you for suggesting this in the first place, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!